Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fan Interference with Wichita Wingnuts manager Pete Rose Jr. Fan Interference is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Wichita manager questions about the Wingnuts, baseball, or sports in general, or just seek Pete's wisdom about life events that are going on out there. In this week's episode, Pete tells us how he's not able to escape the 100-degree temperatures. Pete discusses his use of language, and a grateful mom thanks Pete for teaching her son what baseball is all about. So let's get right to Fan Interference. So let's welcome back to Fan Interference. Pete, do you have team updates to provide for us?
No, not really any team updates. Just kind of rolling along. Just getting ready for this little 2-day break, this little 2-day All-Star game break, and then gear up for the stretch run here in August, and see what we can do. But everything's well. We're doing all right. It's been a good season up to this point, obviously, and I've been very proud of our guys, the way they've come out and played every night, and we're just looking forward to getting into the break, having a couple of days off, and then strapping it back on for the last month.
Well, you begin this big 18-game road trip where the NBC tournament's going on in Wichita. Does it make the trip seem a little bit longer when you lose the first couple of games?
No, I mean, obviously you want to win. I mean, no question about that, but not really. I mean, it's, my guys like to play on the road. Don't ask me why that is. I think it's a sign of a team that loves to be around each other. But that just tells you as a manager that, the more they're around each other, the better off we're going to be. And it's going to, hopefully equate to on the field. But, we ran into a hot Texas team. They've been playing really well. Billy doing a great job down here. They got a good team. It's just part of baseball. I mean, it's why you play the games, and it's why the season's so long. But tip your hat to them, to Billy and his team for the first 2 nights, and we're going to come out tonight in this sauna down here and try to salvage a series and not get swept, and then jump on that bus for a lovely 8-hour trip to Lincoln and get in about 8 in the morning and get some sleep and wake up and strap it on and do it all over again. So. But it's fine. I mean, it's we've talked about the schedule many times. We can't control it. We just got to figure out where we're supposed to be. Obviously, we're the only team going to Salina, which I still don't understand that, and I think that's a crock if you ask me. If everybody else can play, different places, and even if the Salina team wants to play at your place or somewhere else, I just don't understand why my team has to go up there and be put through that situation. But we're not. They don't complain about it. They just go out and play, and like I said, we'll figure out where we're supposed to go, and tonight it's down here in Grand Prairie, and we'll be on time, and then we'll throw it out there. We'll play the way we're supposed to. We'll see what happens.
That's interesting that the team likes to play on the road, because I was wondering, when you have such a long road trip like this, is it a challenge to keep guys up when you're so long away from home, or because you have veterans that have been through this before, do you kind of just let them do their thing and keep the team motivated?
Robert, I just let them do their thing. I mean, that's when you have guys like I do, and they're baseball players. Seldom do you have to, really get into them and motivate them and really kind of say anything. And I've said all along. I mean, the guys I have on the team, they're professionals. They know what's going on. But it's a benefit that our guys like to be on the road because. It stinks with the checkout rooms and all that other good jazz where you can't, if they could send us someplace for 18 days and we got to stay in one place and unload and everything, that would probably be an ideal for us. But, that's really the only part is just, getting your rest. And, we haven't hit the first 2 days down here. We're going to hit today just because, you got to get out of the hotel. But when you don't have any air conditioning in the locker room, and you go in the locker room and they're still upbeat and they're still getting ready and they're still, screwing around with one another, it says a lot about your team. But they know what they're doing. You really don't have to say anything to them. I think obviously the 2-game All-Star break really helps. I think the trip to Laredo really helps because you're not, driving 14 hours home and having an off day to where, once a break we go to, we come to Claiborne, which is a beautiful place. We play 4 and then drive back, to lovely Salina, Kansas to play 3 there, and we should commute those, but we're staying there for the first 2 days. I still don't know why that is, but and then you get a day off and you go to Sioux City. So it's going to be fine. I mean, we did it last year, and it's just kind of part of our season. But like I said before, it's good. These guys that like to be on the road, they just like to, they'll go from room to room and play some video games, and we'll have lunch buses pretty much every day, and it's usually if not 23 guys, it'll be at least 20, 21, 22 guys. So it's just it's a different animal, so to speak, and all I can say is I'm glad I get to put those animals in my lineup and watch them go play.
One guy that seems to be kind of struggling a little bit, and I know that's not a word you particularly like to use, but Matt Chavez is seeing his numbers drop a little bit. Is he maybe putting a little too much pressure on himself?
Well, I think when you hit close to 400 and you drive in 1,000 runs and you have 500 home runs before the All-Star break, I think an 0 for 4 or an 0 for 8 or whatever, I think your numbers are going to drop significantly. So, it's just a testament on how he's been swinging the bat, and I think, maybe trying to do a little too much right now, as we all do as baseball players. He's just not getting his hits right now, but he'll be fine. He can hit. Obviously win the batting title last year. You've got to watch him numerous times this year, but I don't really think he's putting any pressure on himself. It's just, when you have that good of numbers, you take a 1 for 3 and you're hitting above 3, 333, your numbers go down. So, he's still getting his hits. We have been driving runners in when we had opportunities, and obviously that happens. That's part of baseball, and we'll find a way out of that. But as long as we just keep going up there and giving good at bats, and Charlie's been doing that as well as everybody else has, and they'll continue to do that. We'll just see where the chips fall. But he knows he doesn't have to put any pressure on himself, and everybody can say he's struggling. But you know what? When you're hitting 360 or whatever it is, you really can't struggle that much. So I think he'll be fine.
Well, let's head to fan questions. Our first is from Bob from Wichita, who obviously did not check the schedule before asking this question. As he says, Pete, I know you have to be happy to get away from Wichita with the temperatures reaching over 100.
Well, that's a great question because it is 99.9 here today in Grand Prairie. But hey, it's July. It's the middle of July. You're getting close to the end of July. It's not only hot in Wichita, it's hot down here, it's hot in Lincoln, it's hot everywhere. I mean, it's part of being in the summer. So, we don't mind it. I got a great air conditioner in my office in Wichita. So if you're asking me about today's game, would I like to be at home? 1,000% yes, because of the air conditioner that we have, in our office there in Wichita, as opposed to the no air condition here in, lovely Grand Prairie. But on a bright note, the GM and John Witt, their clubhouse guy, have been great down here to where they actually went out and bought us some fans for our locker room, so it's tolerable. So, but it's hot everywhere. We just gotta not use it as an excuse, which some people do from time to time. We just got to go out and play.
I think they should get one of those guys from 2,000 years ago who stood with a big palm leaf fan waving on you or something.
I just don't understand how people don't. Back in the day when they didn't have air conditioning, I mean, what do? I mean, I don't know if I can live back then. I try to stay inside or sit in my truck up until game time, just having, me and Cap are sitting in the truck talking about pitching strategy, so to speak. But basically, we're just in there listening to Claude Von Stroke with the air conditioner on, just trying to stay cool. So, but yeah, we need something like that, or maybe a big block of ice or a portable AC we can just put on the bus.
Vinny from Arkansas City asks, with so many pitchers you are carrying, he finds it surprising that you have no left-hander in the bullpen. Doesn't that limit your options in terms of approaching teams' hitters, especially late in games?
I think when you believe in the stuff of the guys in your bullpen, I don't really think it matters if they're left-handed or right-handed. When I played, I would much rather face a left-hander than I would a right-hander. So, if there's a lefty out there that throws 100 or something, obviously we would add him. But, with the guys we have down there, we got a really good bullpen. They do a really good job. They have from day one. But, it's always nice to have a lefty. We have one in Charlie. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and he's out with us. Obviously he's resting at home. I don't know if he's going to be back for the playoffs, but, we've talked about it on different times, a couple of times, but, if it's not broke, you try not to fix it. You just try to let him go out and compete. And, the guy's been well, not only late in the game, but throughout the game with right on left. So, we'll just ride these guys out, and if we have to make a change, then obviously we'll make a change. But you know me, I like to stick with guys and get them into a role and let them know, hey, just go out there and compete. Go make some mistakes. You're not going anywhere. You're here to pitch, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I've always had the impression that you weren't really based upon the situation, but you said, this is my ninth inning guy, like Mike Devine would be your eighth inning guy, and that you just go with that instead of worrying about who's coming up at that particular time.
I think if you start you start matching up and doing all that good jazz, next thing you know, you're running out of pitching. So Mike Devine's a guy that he can come in and get guys out of jams and everything. Basically Campbell would be, he can pitch in the seventh, he can pitch in the third, he can pitch in the eighth, he can pitch in the ninth. But if I had to have it my way, I'm obviously, Devo would be 7 and Campbell would be 8 and Seth Harvey would be 9. And you got Chad Nading, in there as well, to where that's just another extra added advantage. So, it's just, if guys know when they're going to pitch, they can kind of start to get their minds right. But, on the other hand, it might be different. I mean, you try to, last year it was, Devine, Nading, and Frankie Reed. And obviously when you have a horse like Frankie Reed in the back end, you just kind of let him do his thing. But, I think if they know their roles, I think it helps them out, getting ready, preparing, that type of deal. And, we have confidence in them. It doesn't matter if they're right-handed or left-handed. If they come in the game, go compete, get the job done, and great job, and we'll see you tomorrow. So, but I like to do it that way as opposed to, you get other teams that get guys hot and do this and do that, and I'm just not a really big fan of it.
Sam from Park City would like to know, he says, while I understand players wanting to get to affiliate ball, as a manager, unless you wanted to be a major league manager, isn't independent ball more fun because you get to play to win?
Independent ball is 1,000% more fun because of that reason. You can go out and you can teach. And, from all my playing years, I can teach guys what I know as opposed to have to make a phone call and ask if I can teach somebody this. I understand it. Obviously it's a business, it's an organization. But, when my eyes tell me something, and my baseball senses kind of start to tingle, kind of like Spidey senses will with Spider-Man, and you're doing the right thing. It's tough not to do it just because you're not allowed to do it. So, but I definitely agree with that, of course, it is a lot funner in independent ball. But, hey, I love where I'm at. I love Wichita. The fans are great. Organization's great. My staff's great. My players are great. But if I could take all my players and my staff and, let's say, go to Cincinnati, obviously that would be 1,000% better just because you're in the big leagues. I think every player, manager, coach, he's in this, not just a coach. Let's say in Wichita, they're in it to coach at the highest level, and obviously that's what I'm here to do as well. So, but if I have to be in a minor league, so to speak, I'm very happy where I am right now, and it's a great place to be, and it's all about winning, which is great.
Henry from Kansas City would like to know if your dad still plays baseball at all anymore, because he'd love to see him play for that Kansas Stars team.
At 76. He may play some tap sports baseball on his phone maybe, but I don't think that's probably in the cards are going to happen. And that would it be great? Yeah, but I think he would probably have a better chance at managing it as opposed to playing and being 76 years old. But I'm sure if you ask him, he'll tell you that he could probably get at least 2 or 3 hits if he plays at least one game. But I don't think he'll play because actually, we talked about this. He thinks Wichita is the hottest place in the world ever to play baseball, so it would take a lot to get him to come out to do it.
I bet it would. Leon from Wichita says the Juice is getting out of prison, which actually I just saw that they were giving him parole here. So talk about the craziest story in sports history.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's all over the news, and okay. That shows you how much I pay attention to a lot of stuff that's going on around. I since you told me that, I couldn't have said anything about it. So, yeah, sure, I'll go with that.
Mary says, I have to say that I am really disturbed by language. When did stupid and sick become great things? I guess I'm just getting old.
Yeah, well, I would be the wrong guy you're asking that just because of our business and language is it gets a little foul from time to time, but I think that's just kind of heat of the battle kind of thing. So, if she wants to come to a game or something, we better make sure we get her some Beats by Dre to maybe get over her ears, just so she don't hear everything.
Derek from Mays asks, he says, can you explain to me television shows where there is a contest to see who can, quote-unquote, play the air guitar best or who lip syncs well? Should there be a Cy Young given to the guy who looks like he could throw the ball the best?
Don't they have like video game like Olympics and stuff?
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
Isn't that what it is? I mean, I know they have the Madden Super Bowl during Super Bowl week where they go down there and they they play the best two Madden players. So yeah, of course. But I guess that would be the MLB The Show World Series. I guess maybe get a tournament going there and see what happens. But I think that's kind of the same thing.
I think those lip sync contests are pretty crazy. But
yeah, they are pretty nuts. Yeah.
Oh, well, what can you do? Okay. A person who identifies himself or herself as M says, I am really troubled by... it must be a woman. I'm sorry. I am really troubled by something. My future mother-in-law says that there are things that are really borderline racist in the way that they sound. When I talk to my fiance about it, he just says that's just her. It shouldn't be, though. Should I say something to her, or do I just bite my tongue?
That's a tough question. Without knowing the person, but you know what? If you feel strongly about something, I think you always voice your opinion. And you know what? If your fiance loves you enough, he's going to understand that. Hey, you just want to get it off your chest, and once you get it off your chest, now you can move forward. So. Obviously, if it's something bothers you that much, I'd strongly suggest, hey, get it off your chest, and you know what, whatever happens, happens. It's either going to make it stronger, or it's going to, make it go south in a hurry. And if it goes south in a hurry, you're probably glad you probably opened your mouth and said something. So, if it bothers you, get it off your chest. Don't live with it inside. I tell my players the same thing. You got to get stuff off your chest, off your brain. So yeah, absolutely, let it loose and see what happens.
The thing about a situation like that, too, is you may let it slide, but if they say that to the wrong person in another situation, they may not.
Not in this crazy world we have today. You're exactly right. But, if it's family, I've always been under the assumption you can say anything you want to family just because they're family. So I would say, hey, let it loose and see what happens.
Jonathan would like to know, what do you do when your son has a friend who they have been friends with since they were little, but that friend is now making some really bad decisions? I don't want to just tell my son to cut him off, but I am worried about my child. What do you suggest I do?
That's, man, you talk about another tough question. That's man, I don't really, it's, I guess, different situations for different kids, but, I know my son would probably just stick him in a trash can and just, hey, just cut it out. We're friends, but, you got to quit running your mouth. And I think if not saying that have your son stick somebody in the trash can, but if your son or your daughter doesn't like it, they got to be willing to stand. Hey, listen, that's enough. We're friends. Friends don't do that. And if it keeps up, I don't think that really think you cut them off, but I think that. Knowing my two kids, they would just not talk to him anymore. So, I'm sure he could handle him himself. So, and if he couldn't, obviously come to me or his mom, and we'll figure it out. But I think kids today, people don't realize they're a lot smarter than what people give them credit for, and that's a tough situation because you're talking about bullying and all that good jazz. To where being a parent, as you well know, it's crazy when you got to send them off to school and you don't know what's going to happen and everything else. But as long as you do a good job raising them and loving them, I think everything works out for the best.
Absolutely. Our last statement this week comes from Cassandra. She says she first of all wants to say she's a big fan of the show and she's thankful that you were the manager of the Wichita Wingnuts. She listens to the show while doing stuff with her kids around the house. She just wanted to tell you a story. My husband was getting on my son about the way he had played in a game recently, and my husband asked my son, if you're not going to play well, then why are you even getting onto the field? My son turned back to him and said, so I can have fun. That is what Pete says baseball is supposed to be all about. Thanks for teaching my son and my husband what baseball is all about.
Hey, that's my pleasure. That's great to hear. That brings a smile to my face, and that's why we play it, and we've talked about it a million times. We play it because we love to play baseball and it's fun, and that's I think big league players today forget that and they take it too serious in a job and everything else. So that's a great story. So great way to end the show, and just we got to make sure we remember that July 26th is when training camps open, especially for the Who Day. So I'm sure next week's show probably have a lot of football questions to get ready for our run to the Super Bowl. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us this week, Pete.
All right, pal. Talk to you next week.
We want to thank Manager Pete Rose Jr. for joining us on Fan Interference this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Wichita Wingnut skipper, please send them to us at askpete@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's askpete@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Sunday evening so we can give Pete a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next time on Fan Interference.